Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm so excited the 207 Apex Survival Update is finally here. This is the ultimate guide to all the changes and additions it brings. A quick note before we start, you don't need a brand new world to experience these new features. They can all be enabled on your pre-207 saves. Let's get right into it. The biggest change here is the optional food system. This feature is enabled by default in new survival worlds, but is disabled in creative mode. When you enable it, your HUD will now have an additional food bar, and here is a breakdown of how it works. A new food consumption rate world setting gives you 4 options to scale the decay rate of your food. You can set it to slow, where it takes 3 hours to drain, or the default moderate, which takes about an hour and a half. For a true challenge, you can choose the fast setting, which takes just 45 minutes to go from 100% to empty. And of course, if you just want to turn the system off, there's always the disabled option. If your food bar runs completely out, you will begin to take damage and eventually die. Even before that, once your food drops below 20%, you'll start to experience debuffs, including a reduction in movement speed, and you'll no longer be able to sprint. Now, let's talk about where you get food. 9 new food items have been added, and many of these can be eaten on their own, but they won't provide a lot of fill value unless you craft them into more complex meals. Obtaining food is all about foraging and hunting. You can find easily obtained sources like algae from the new algae farm block. It's low quality but always available, which makes it perfect for starting out. All other food items can be found from a variety of sources. On Earth-like alien and Pertan planets, you'll now find forageable bushes that respawn after you harvest them. You can collect them by hand or with a collector block. Your favorite enemies now drop food as well. Wolves drop raw mammal meat and sabroids drop raw insect meat. NPCs and unknown signals also have a chance to contain food and seeds inside their containers. Let's get into the specifics of farming. The algae farm block functions similarly to an oxygen farm, generating algae as long as it's exposed to the sun. It doesn't require any unique components or maintenance and is an ideal food producer in most environments. For more substantial food, you'll need the farm plot block. This is a dynamic block that requires a bit more care. Farm plots have an internal water tank that must be filled by an irrigation system block. Without a connection to the system, all your crops will die. You can plant a variety of crops including fruit, grain, mushrooms, and vegetables, each with a different growth speed and water consumption rate. Crops are also susceptible to extreme temperatures and vacuum and will die within seconds if exposed. The great news is that once a crop is fully grown, its water consumption drops by 90%, allowing you to keep it as a decorative element in your base. And when you're ready to harvest, you have 2 options. You can either harvest through the management screen or use a collector on a subgrid. Once you have your ingredients, it's time to cook. The survival kit can craft the most basic ration, a kelp crisp, which only requires algae. For everything else, you'll need the new food processor block. You can cook raw meat and combine a wide variety of ingredients into more complex and more filling meal packs. And finally, a great note for builders and collectors: food does not expire or spoil. Now, let's get into the meaningful death and new buff system. 2 new world options that make surviving a lot more rewarding, and dying a lot more consequential. First up, with the new reduced stats on respawn setting enabled, if you die and spawn outside of a respawn craft, your health, food, energy, oxygen, and hydrogen will all be set to just 20%. This makes dying less of a simple reset button and adds real consequences, especially in a world with a working food system. To help you survive, there's a new survival buff setting. Your character will gain these buffs over time, receiving a new level every 45 minutes. At the maximum level, these buffs are incredibly powerful, but there's a catch. If you die, all your progress is lost and your buffs are completely reset, incentivizing long-term survival. You can always view your current stat buffs by hitting Shift and B in-game. These new buffs have a massive impact on your gameplay and change how you look at oxygen and tools. First, the base oxygen storage has been adjusted. Before this update, you had 24 minutes in a vacuum without a bottle, but after 207, that time is cut in half to just 12 minutes. Your bottle storage capacity was also cut in half. However, reaching the maximum buff level will now grant you the same extended time as it did before with this update. The tool modifiers were also adjusted. The old elite tools were incredibly fast, but now the new elite tools have a lower modifier. Reaching the maximum buff level gives your character a grinding and welding speed that is proportional to what the elite grinder and welder had before this update, now giving that high speed as a reward for long-term survival rather than just something that can be simply crafted or looted. Speaking of crafting, tool costs have also been completely overhauled. Tools now act as an upgrade path, requiring a previous version of the tool in order to build it, making you work your way up to the best gear. The next major change to survival are the new environmental hazards. They're designed to add risk to the world around you, and a few of these new features are completely optional. First up, radiation. This can be disabled in your world settings, and it requires air tightness to be enabled. Your character's radiation level will increase when you're near a source and will decrease when you aren't. Being inside an enclosed cockpit, cryopod, or a sealed pressurized room will keep you safe. There are 4 main sources of radiation. The first is solar radiation. This is a hardcore setting that is disabled by default. When enabled, the sun itself becomes a radiation source, and there's a world setting dropdown to control the intensity from light all the way to heavy. You can avoid exposure by seeking cover or getting to a planet with a protective atmosphere, as some planets like Earth-like and Alien provide full protection, while others like Mars offer only reduced protection. Next, some planets now have their own unique radiation. Europa is now a source of radiation, and your exposure will increase the closer you get to the surface. Certain weather types also now have a radiation component, such as the electric storm on Pertam and a new toxic haze fog on the alien planet. On the plus side, rain actually reduces any accumulated radiation, washing it away. Finally, there's block-based radiation. Damaged reactors now leak radiation, and unlike other sources, this radiation is powerful enough to leak through grids and structures, so there's no cover from it. It's very dangerous if you leave it unattended. Only reactors are impacted. The Prototech fusion reactor does not emit radiation when damaged. If your radiation level reaches critical levels, you will start to take damage, and at 100% radiation, you will take 10 damage per second. To combat this, a new item has been added, the Anti-Radiation Medkit. This consumable gives you 10 minutes of immunity and reduces all accumulated radiation. You cannot craft it, it can only be looted from NPCs. A few types of weather now deal damage over time to characters who are exposed. Your grids are safe from this, but you are not. Taking shelter will prevent this damage. This includes sandstorms on most planets, hailstorms, and caustic rain on the alien planet. Overall, all the weather effects have been updated with new values and visuals to make them feel more immersive. Now onto meteors. The biggest change here is that they no longer specifically target grids. They just spawn near the player and travel across the area, which adds more ambience and life to space and moons. They no longer cause voxel deformation or leave craters, and the atmospheres of Earth-like and alien planet prevent them from reaching the surface, making them safe havens. Now for one of the most exciting new features, random encounters. You can get ready to explore because a whopping 30 new random encounters have been added to the game, and all of the old legacy encounters have been completely removed. These encounters vary wildly in substance, providing new exploration opportunities, fun interactions, or even becoming a dangerous threat. There are no changes to the underlying system, so they'll still only spawn in space at predetermined locations based on the world seed. The world setting was also renamed from Encounter Density to Random Encounter Density for clarity, but the setting itself hasn't changed. Next up, the settings menu has been reorganized into clear categories. This makes it much easier to find the exact option you're looking for. In addition, all the tooltips for every world setting have been updated to better explain what each option actually does. For planetary starts, there is a brand new starter rover. It was built with flexibility and customization in mind to make the new player experience much more engaging and dynamic than the old drop pods. Next up are some key visual changes. The skybox has been completely recolored and updated, and lighting has been changed, making nights and shadows much darker for a more immersive and atmospheric experience. Now let's get into the heart of this update, the new blocks for food and farming. We have 4 new blocks, starting with the food processor, which is essentially a specialized assembler. It has 2 new production categories, the food production category for crafting all of your ration packs and food items, and the farming items category for harvesting seeds from plants you've grown. This is where you'll get things like fruit seeds, grain seeds, and vegetable seeds to use in your farming plots. Next, we have the new farm plot block. This is an open planter bed, and it's a dynamic block that supports conveyor access for gas. This is a crucial point because it has a built-in gas container to store water, which is a new gas type generated by the irrigation system block. It also has a built-in grow light that can be manipulated just like any other light source. Now for the most important part, the plant life cycle. By default, all plants take about 20 minutes to grow, and they actively consume the water stored in the block's tank. But a great detail is that once a plant is fully grown, its water consumption drops by 90%, allowing you to keep it for aesthetic reasons without burning through all of your resources. Plants also have a health value from 0 to 100, and they are susceptible to the elements. If the plot runs out of water, the plant's health will drop, and if it's exposed to extreme temperatures or a vacuum, it will die in a matter of seconds. If a plant reaches 0% health, its model will display a dead variant until it's harvested. Interacting with the soil bed opens a new plant management screen. This window has all the information you need, including the crop type, growth progress, health, and water level. It also gives you 3 key buttons: Plant, which you'll use to start the growth process, Harvest, which you'll use to collect your grown crops, and Refresh, which updates all of the info. How you harvest your crops is up to you. You can do it manually through the management screen, but you can also use a collector block on a subgrid to automatically harvest any fully grown plants and send them to your grid's inventory. To keep your farm plots alive, you'll need the new irrigation system block. This is a special O2H2 generator that consumes ice and outputs the new water gas type, distributing it to all connected planter beds. Without a steady supply of water from this block, your plants will not survive. Finally, we have the algae farm. This block passively produces a very small amount of algae and functions just like the oxygen farm. When in direct sunlight, it will slowly generate algae and deposit it directly into its own inventory, making it a perfect low-effort food source for starting out. Now for all the new blocks available in the Apex Survival Pack DLC. This pack adds a variety of new functional and decorative blocks to expand your building options. You'll get the new Type 2 variants of the welder, grinder, and drill, as well as the survival kit Type 2 and the ore detector Type 2. These new variants allow for even more customization in your builds, giving you more options for creating specialized ships and stations. For those who love to build bases, this pack includes new blocks to make your life easier and your bases look better. There's a new large grid oxygen farm, a flat algae farm, and a storage bin set for all your organization needs. You'll also get a new conduit set and a variety of warning signs. For decorative builders, there are a few amazing new blocks as well, including an inset terrarium for both desert and forest variants, and a new inset planter for all of your indoor gardening needs. And one final note for those who own the Fieldwork Pack DLC, a new round passage door inverted has been added, a block we all have been missing. And that's a wrap. That covers every major change, addition, and new block added in the 207 Apex Survival Update. This is easily the biggest overhaul to survival gameplay that Space Engineers has ever seen. I want to thank Keen Software House for giving me the opportunity to bring you this guide. I am so excited to see what everyone builds and how they survive with these new tools. Let me know in the comments below what your favorite new feature is. As always, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and subscribe for more. I'll see you in the next video.